This will be a day long remembered. Now I am the master.
Welcome to another episode of Legends and Theories, and welcome to my upload of the Daredevil Born Again panel from Fan Expo Chicago. So if you haven't seen the Mark Hamill one, or haven't seen any of the other ones, because I'll have this at the front of all of them, there will be slight cutoffs of audio, so I could have had an easier time uploading these files. And for this one specifically, if you do notice that your name is you did say your name in a panel and you want me to edit it out, please let me know in the comments, give me a timestamp, and I'll work on that immediately. So this one is pretty simple to explain. It's Charlie Cox talking about Daredevil Born Again. There should be timestamps eventually. I have like 3 or 4 other ones to edit too, so it'll take me some time to get to it. But if you do want to do timestamps yourself while watching it, I'll give you a shout out in some future video. And one final thing to mention is that they did say this series is coming in March before the panel started. Well, at least before I started recording, before they brought Charlie out, so there is that little fact, but everything else is in here.
Good. Hey guys, how are you? How's everyone?
So, Charlie, we're going to start this right off the bat. I was at D23 last week.
It's going to go. There's a picture of me right there.
A great picture.
I'd rather not look at that. Oh no, that's even worse.
I was at D23 last week, and we saw you guys all together for the first time, like officially. How did that feel being on stage at D23, knowing that you're now officially in the MCU with the Daredevil?
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It was a big audience. Any of you guys were there? It was like 12,000 people on the stage in that arena. So it was mad. Yeah, you know, it's like it's still kind of surreal to think that we've been doing this 10 years and we're still introducing a new show.
Wow, right?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So I mean, just such a gift. This character.
You know, when you first started talking to Kevin Feige, were you aware of the Save the Daredevil campaign?
Yeah. So, but I thought they were lunatics. No, I didn't think that. I thought they were really passionate, beautiful, wonderful fans, and that they didn't have a chance in hell of getting the show back on. Right? I mean, like, when have you ever heard that a petition, an online petition, or a campaign has actually, you know, made a difference? It's very rare that happens, and it's such credit to their passion and their resilience. Marvel, Disney listens, and here we are.
When you first started the Daredevil show on Netflix, did you think it would have the impact that it did, and we would be talking about this show 10 years later?
How come?
Really?
No, I mean, I don't think you can ever, you never imagine that something you do is going to have that kind of an impact and is going to have the kind of life that it's had. I mean, as an actor, you know, like, you just hope that you get to work. You know, that's the main thing, is like, do you get to work consistently over the course of, you know, a decade, a career? Like, it's just, that's, anything beyond that is great, as they say in the UK. So to be on a show that has had this kind of like lasting status, and for it to be just for me to have had a job for 10 years is amazing. And so yeah, no, it's like you just kind of keep pinching yourself and long may it continue.
You know, one of the things I love most about Daredevil, I was just talking to somebody at this panel. One of the things I loved most about Daredevil was that all of the action was in camera, and there was a lot of training that you had to go through when you first started the show. How is that different now, stepping back into the role 10 years later?
Yeah, it hurts a lot more. I've had a couple of surgeries since then. You know, so it's hard, you know, it's really hard, and the training's hard, and as you get older, it gets harder, and the recovery time is longer. I spend more time in ice baths than I did when I started doing this. But at the same time, you know, you have to be really grateful for it, because it's very rare that as an actor you get to do a lot of the physical stuff as well. You know, often most TV shows, most movies, they'll have a scene, a moment where you have to do a stunt, and it's really exciting. And for me, playing this character, I'm doing multiple sequences every episode, and that, you know, that will not, there are not many jobs like that. Sure. So I'm, you know, I just try and really enjoy it. I love those days. I love that aspect of the show and of the character. I get to do that, and then the next day I show up and I'm in a coffee shop having a conversation, or I'm in the court, you know, defending someone. So, you know, it's really it's so varied. So yeah, just again, just another gift to this character.
Have any of you guys seen the show Kin, by the way?
Four of you.
First of all, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's a fantastic show. I want to ask you a question about that. Is there any news on if there's going to be a season 2 release?
So they haven't released season 2 yet?
We don't have season 2 here, no.
Right. So the season 1 and 2 are on Netflix in the UK and on the BBC iPlayer. I know that the company that made it, or the companies that made it, went bankrupt, and I know that like there's some licensing issues. I don't really know exactly what's going on there. I assume that at some point they will bring it over here. It's been a huge success in the UK and in parts of Europe. So I'm imagining that will give it a bit of momentum to get over here. It really is a tremendous show, actually, and I had such a blast making it. And it's, you know, it's the other end of the spectrum in terms of Daredevil. You know, when we make Daredevil, every episode it costs a lot of money, you know, and there's a huge amount of there's just a lot of we get to do stuff that smaller shows don't get to do, and that's a blessing. That's a gift. That's really fun. With Kin, you know, we'd be trying to shoot the scenes of the day, and there were days where we'd lose the light, and so we couldn't get the last scene, and we just didn't have the money to put it anywhere else. So that scene then isn't in the show anymore, and then we have to make that episode work without that scene and stuff, you know. And it's like sometimes felt like guerrilla filmmaking. But it really came out beautifully, and it's really, you know, Peter McKenna wrote it, and showrunner it was just such an amazing talent. And so I hope, you know, I'm trying to set something up with him at the moment as well, with my wife and I have a production company, and we're trying to do something with him. So that'd be really cool. But no, it was such fun to film.
It's an incredible show, so I highly recommend it. Do you think that Matt Murdock would defend Michael Kinsella?
Oh wow. Yeah, he's a bad dude.
Not a great dude, yes.
Well, he'd know he's lying all the time, you know what I mean? So I don't know, I probably wouldn't want to touch that. You know, interesting story, like I read these scripts during COVID, and I was just so taken in by the story. I read the first few episodes of the show, and I was just really taken by the story, and so I was like, I agreed to do it, and you know, we went over to Dublin, and once I'd accepted the role, I started to do my research, and what I discovered was that this story is very closely based on a real ongoing crime family, like mafia feud in Dublin, in Ireland. And I was like, suddenly like, Peter told me who my character was based on, and you know, you know, normally it's like historical events, right? You play someone from the past, from history. I'm reading up about this guy, I'm like, this guy's just been released from jail. He's in Dublin right now. Like, I hope he doesn't find out that I'm portraying him, and then doesn't like it. You know? So it was really close to home.
Well, now he's a huge fan.
I hope so. I've never said his name publicly, so I hope.
That's probably a smart move.
Yeah.
Now back to Daredevil. We know that Frank Castle is coming back, played by John Bernthal. If Frank and Matt shared a playlist, what would be some of the songs on said playlist?
I think Frank's playlist would be very different from Matt's playlist. What an I don't want to speak for John and Frank. I don't know, man. I always think of Matt listening to a lot of classical music. You know, I always think it's kind of funny, the idea that he's in these crazy, frenetic, action, violent fight scenes that he's imagining Chopin in his head, you know?
You know, we saw you pop up in She-Hulk in a great cameo. Matt is having more success in his love life now than ever before.
It depends how you define success.
That's true. How do you feel about that? Can you talk about working with Tatiana Maslany?
Yeah, so I can certainly speak about Tatiana. I think she's one of the great actors of our generation. And so it's such a thrill to work with her. She's so fun. She made everything so fun and easy, and you know, it was fun for me because having played this character for a number of years at that point, and there was an opportunity with She-Hulk when I read the scripts. I was like, well, this is a really good opportunity to have a little bit more fun with the character, and I think it's important to honor the tone of the show that you're in, not just the character. Otherwise, you know, if I'd have taken the Daredevil that I portrayed in the Daredevil show and put him in She-Hulk, he might have been like the butt of the joke a little bit. He was overly serious and stuff. So I thought it was A, important, but B, also kind of a good experiment to have him be a little lighthearted. You know, and also just like when in LA, just maybe just like let loose a little bit. So no, it was just awesome. It was just an awesome experience, and I think most people like it.
Yeah, it was good.
Occasionally you get people who really don't like it, and like, you know, some people, especially some very religious people, don't like the walk of shame, which I think is kind of funny.
It's crazy. Matt's a crazy religious dude. Like,
yeah, he doesn't always act like one.
now, you did also return in Spider-Man: No Way Home. You were called for that, and you were asked by Kevin Feige to return to the role. Was there any preface of knowing that that was going to be the same Matt Murdock from the Netflix series, or was it just like, hey, we want you back, it's just Daredevil, any iteration of Daredevil?
So the first call that I had with him, he talked to me about Daredevil, he talked to me about Spider-Man and She-Hulk. And he talked to me in detail, like he knew that Daredevil wouldn't appear in Spider-Man. It would just be Matt Murdock. And the She-Hulk thing, he knew would be 1, maybe 2 episodes. And then beyond that, they hadn't figured out what they wanted to do. So it was just like a teaser. You know, and I was just so excited about the idea of coming back. I mean, I assumed it would be a similar, you know, the same character. Otherwise, they would just maybe use someone else. You know what I mean? So I just assumed it would be the same character that I had.
Listen, brother, after he got those Save Daredevil campaign things, I don't think he went to that role at all. Now, you also appeared in Echo, which I loved. I thought Echo was such a we see right out of the gate that incredible fight scene.
Right.
Can you talk about working with Olakwa on that show?
Yeah, so I have very little to do on that show. If you've seen it, I mean, I think I'm in like 2 scenes.
Yeah.
You know, and one of them was that fight scene. So I did not get a huge amount of time with her. She was amazing. She's amazing. She was a phenomenal performer and played that character beautifully. I know that Vincent speaks so highly of her and the whole experience of that show. So I hope we get some more stuff together in the future, especially as we share the same surname.
Absolutely. Now, you know what we saw in you guys seen Echo, right? Yeah. So we see that Wilson Fisk, the Kingpin, has new tech with that lens that he puts in. He's able to kind of understand the ASL. I'm going to ask you some important questions. Hopefully, you can answer some of these.
Very unlikely.
I'm going to try. Do we see Matt get any new adaptive technology in Born Again?
I'm not answering that question.
Let me ask you this then. Maybe you can't answer this. If fans of Daredevil, just in general, what comic storylines would you have fans read in order to prepare for Born Again, if at all?
I don't think I fully can answer that either. but maybe, I mean, we don't follow any of the comic books in terms of story. We don't follow any of them closely. And there's a number of reasons for that. One, because you don't, if you follow a storyline closely, you become a foregone conclusion because everyone knows how it ends. You know, those of you who saw the leaked trailer from D23 may have noticed a couple of interesting characters come up. I didn't say it, you said it. So, you know, the trailer's now been taken down, so I'm not going to, you know, say anything.
I mean, it was out there.
Right, but it was out there for a minute. And I remember getting those scripts and being, the character that I'm thinking about in particular right now, I remember when I read that. I mean, I read that before I started doing Daredevil in 2014. And always thought that was a really cool storyline. Such an interesting character, such an interesting dynamic between the two of them. And so that was really fun. I'm really excited about that. Yeah, there's a couple of other nice little cameos that come up.
Oh, I'm excited. What's been the biggest difference between working with Netflix on Daredevil and Disney, if at all, if anything?
Well, you know, the thing was when we were making the show for Netflix, the people that my bosses were Marvel.
Sure.
You know, the day-to-day was with Marvel TV, which now is kind of under the umbrella of Marvel Studios. So, you know, the folks at Netflix were such champions of us, and they were so wonderful to us and gave us that initial platform, which we'll be forever grateful for. It feels good to be, as so many people say to me at these things, welcome to the MCU. You know, it feels really good to be part of that whole thing, and for us to have the opportunity at least now to have more of these crossovers, which fans love, and which is, you know, when you become a big fan of the world and the characters, you get really excited by. Whereas before we didn't have, you know, other than the four of us that were doing the Netflix shows, we didn't have all the five of us. We didn't have that opportunity as much. So, you know, and then just there's always the possibility that you can end up in a movie like I did with Spider-Man, and that's the dream.
You know, I thought it was so cool with the original Netflix Daredevil series because there were so many ties to the MCU during the course of that, in terms of, like, you know, taking place after the incident, which they call
References.
Sure.
A lot of references.
Lots of touchdowns and references.
Yeah.
Now that you're back fully, or back, a part of the MCU, what has that been like for you? Has it felt different?
Being in the Spider-Man movie felt like a big step. Just in terms of, like, a lot of people, you know, a lot of people reference that when I meet them, and I guess you can't underestimate how much it means to, if these characters have history in the comics. When we then get to collide on screen, it really means a lot to the fans, and I get that. I feel that right now as well myself. So that with the Spider-Man thing is such an iconic. The idea of Matt Murdock and Peter Parker together is just so iconic. I hope in the future we get to do some more stuff together, because it was really that really is fun. So that's the main thing. Just those opportunities kind of rise.
Now, have you spoken with your fellow Defenders cast members about returning to the MCU at all? Any conversations at all? So I talked to Mike just recently, and he said that he'd be interested in coming back. There's a good story to tell. Have you talked to any of them about just being part of this?
No, not really. I mean, we're friends and we see each other occasionally. But no, I mean, they've asked me about my experience. I don't know. I have no idea what Marvel is thinking or planning, so I would hate to give, you know. It would be cool, obviously, but I have no idea.
Now, there's an interesting connection that somebody pointed out to me on Twitter, I guess X now. But after Matt's father was murdered, he went to St. Agnes's orphanage. Chloe Bennett's character, Daisy Johnson, also grew up in the same orphanage as your character. Just for the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. fans out there, what are the chances we can get Chloe Bennett back on one of these shows?
I can't believe you're asking me.
I'm going to ask you because I think from your mouth to God's ears it happened.
Dude, wrong. I have no idea. I leave that to the grown-ups.
I love it. Let me ask you this: now that you are part of the MCU, you've shared the screen now with Peter Parker, you've shared the screen now with She-Hulk and Echo. Are there any characters that you're looking forward to possibly sharing the screen with?
I shared the screen with Happy. That was really fun. I'm a huge Jon Favreau fan, so that was really cool. Again, these are the odd questions because I answer them and then then it becomes like a story.
Sure.
And then I worry that it becomes less likely.
Oh really?
Yeah, because you as Marvel people, these companies want to do something. They want to surprise you. That's what entertainment's about. So maybe that's untrue, but I don't know. I always feel like I don't like. I've said it in the past, and then it becomes a news story, and I wonder, well, maybe they won't do that, So, look, I just am thrilled to be in the world, and any of the crossovers that can happen in the future, I'm game.
Another thing that you're working on, I don't know if you've recorded already, was it the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man?
Right. Yeah, I recorded that a long time.
Oh, really? How was that experience?
I think it was like the first thing I did as Daredevil coming back after the long 2 or 3 years where we weren't filming it. So it was, it was kind of strange. I was voicing the character for this animation, but the animation wasn't complete yet. So it was kind of exciting because it was the beginning again, the first opportunity to play him, if that's the right word. But I haven't seen it, and I don't know when it comes out. People know that.
Pretty soon.
Okay, cool.
It's pretty soon. I'm excited about it too. So I know that you did a cosplay of Louie. I thought it was really good. Are there any other TV shows that you'd like to be in, just in general, or even voice act, whether it be Louie?
There's so much great content out there, isn't there? I don't know.
I'm not putting Charlie on the spot here. He's like, oh,
yeah, I don't really think in those terms. Like, I think that when Daredevil eventually comes to an end, I'll be excited to explore other television opportunities, but probably something original, not rather than going in something that's already been done.
Let's hope that comes to an end, Charlie. Let's hope.
I'm like 60 years old, still trying to play the camera.
Yeah, do it till you're 90. Are you taking bad questions?
Yeah.
All right, do we have mics? The only request I have is one question per person, so we try to get through as many as we can. We're going to start on this side, on the left here.
Watch my stuff.
All right. Yeah.
Entities like Bast for the Wakandans, the Asgardians for the Norse, the Olympians, all these things really exist. And on the Hellstrom show from Marvel, it was revealed that Catholicism is really humanity's defense against a particular type of demon possession. Like, since Daredevil's so very heavily Catholic, like, what's the difference between this is my family tradition or these are my values and talking to a priest who's actually faced off with like the entities that they're supposed to be defending humanity against?
So before you sit down, what's the question bit?
The difference in Matt Murdock's faith from a real world, this is my family's tradition, these are my values, this is what I believe, versus the comic book level, the priest I'm talking to is like actually face off with a demon, because that's what is actually Marvel continuity.
Good luck, Charlie.
detailed question. It's a great question. I don't know that I have the time to really get into it. I don't want to in any way belittle the question, but I just think he's a man of faith, and the great interesting thing about Matt Murdock, or anyone who has a deep faith, is the constant struggle with that, especially being who he is and doing what he does. I think it's one of the reasons it makes this character so compelling to watch, is because he is this like walking paradox. You know, he's constantly being pulled in two directions. Being, someone who he's a lawyer who takes the law into his own hands. He's a man of faith. He believes in God's will, and then he plays God. And I just think that finding that balance is probably an impossibility for him. But therein lies the beauty of the drama. I'm not sure that that's going to really answer your question, but that's how I think of it. If that's
That was great. What's your name?
Lori.
Hey, Lori, how are you?
I'm great, but I'm not nearly as smart as that guy. So my question is very simple.
What's my favorite color?
I guess blue. Anyway, forgive me if I fall. You've been back in the character recently in projects such as No Way Home and She-Hulk, both projects that are a lot more like lighthearted and comedic than what you're used to for Daredevil. How did it feel, or what did you do to get back in the darkness of like the standalone Daredevil show?
Oh yeah, I mean, a lot of that's just done for you by the nature of the writing. You know, the writing on the show has always been so tremendous and so thoughtful and deep that you kind of it's a lot of it's done for you. You know, the stuff on She-Hulk and Spider-Man is just, in its nature was just more lighthearted. There were more jokes, there's more levity. The thing with when we do Daredevil, a lot of it's obviously very heavy, and I do find that one thing I want to try to do where possible, even in the darkness, even in the heaviness, is to bring a bit of humor and a bit of levity, because I actually think in life, sometimes the funniest moments you have in life is when the shit hits the fan and everything's going terrible. It's just like, you just can't help but laugh, you know. And I do think that's true to the comics. That's often the case. There's a very dry, wry humor with Matt Murdock in the comics, especially when stuff's not going well. And so it's fun to play with that when we can. There's a couple of fun scenes with myself and John where we get to have fun with each other. And it's fun. Like, it's fun when we're on set. It's fun for me to try and make John laugh because his character is also so serious at times, you know. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great question.
Hello.
Hi, I'm good. Troy, I was wondering if you had the chance to play Mike Murdock, would you do that?
His brother?
Yes.
That's just such a good idea. It's so fun. I mean, like I think any actor who gets to play, like the evil twin or whatever is like it's such fun for an actor to do that. It's not my favorite stuff in the comics, the Mike Murdock stuff. Like, some of it's kind of fun, but it's not my absolute favorite because there are times where it starts to crosses the line a little bit into the unbelievable. But sure, I mean, like if there was a fun and interesting and cool and authentic way to do that, that would be a fun storyline to touch on.
Yeah, I want to follow up on that for a second, because what is your favorite part of the comics? And is there anything from the comics you really haven't explored with the character that you want to?
Oh God, I mean, so much. It's been a while since I read some of this stuff, so I may be wrong. But there's a really cool. Again, this is one of those things where I'm worried to say it, because maybe it means we can't do it. But there was a really cool run. I want to say it was like Brubaker Lark. I think it came after the Bendis Relief stuff, where Matt, I think he gets himself arrested goes into jail to try and get to Wilson Fisk. And I remember thinking that's such a cool idea to kind of get yourself in prison so that you can get to the person you're trying to get to. But I'm a little foggy on where exactly that was and exactly how it done that.
Well, hopefully we put that energy out there. We get to explore that.
That whole, like, for me, that whole period from 2011, kind of, like those years of Bendis, Malini, Brubeck and Lark and onwards, it's just like, it's endlessly brilliant.
So if any Daredevil fan has recommended reading from Charlie Cox, go down to the floor and grab those books. We got a question over here?
After the writers' strike, they brought in new writers, kind of completely changed the direction of Daredevil Reborn. So I'm curious, like, what did you think of where it was originally shot, and then all of the changes that the new writers brought in?
You know, I'm actually not gonna answer that just because it's more complicated. I've read online that, you know, how that information has been received, and it's just the truth of the matter is it was a lot more complicated than that. You know, some of the material, a lot of the material that we shot pre-strike is brilliant and is still in the show and works really well. There were just some complicating factors around what we had been tasked to do and what we were discovering was and wasn't working. So I would hate to kind of answer that and then make it sound like what people were doing before the changes were made was not good or wrong. It's just more complicated than that. So I think you know, what I will say is credit to Marvel, that they looked at the episodes and could acknowledge that we could still do better, and that we maybe needed to go in a slightly different direction. And I mean, that's just, you got to count yourself so lucky to be working for a company that is willing to do that, you know, and you know, spend more money to get it right. So yeah, but where we have ended up felt really good.
Thanks.
Question over here?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, anytime you're filming, and whether it be a camera shot or maybe you're in it and there's someone else that's off screen, or if it's CGI, or if it's special effects, anytime you're having to act against something that's not actually there, it's going to be added in later, is that difficult? Is it like just people are looking goofy, reacting to stuff that's not there, or how does that work for you?
It doesn't affect me much because I'm not looking at anything anyway. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's the hardest thing actually has got nothing to do with that. It's more just that when I have an emotional scene with another actor, it's a shame sometimes that I can't. For both of us, it's a shame that you can't use eye contact, because eye contact is so powerful, you know. And you draw, you know. I often think in real life, you often feel a lot because of what you see in the other person's eyes. You know, if someone is looking, if you're vulnerable with someone and you look at the person you're talking to and you see a bit of pity in their eyes, it makes you feel emotional, right? It makes you feel sad or loved or whatever it is. And so, you know, that's something that is challenging to play in playing this role, but also really challenging for all the other actors who have to act opposite me, because they don't get to connect in that way, and you have to find other ways to connect with each other. A lot of body language stuff, and obviously through tone and your voice and stuff like that. But like when it comes to like acting with something or someone who isn't there, it's not that difficult. I haven't found it to be that difficult. It's never going to be as spontaneous and as alive as if you're working with the thing or the person or whatever, but but sometimes that's kind of the fun of acting, you know, you have to pretend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Charlie, I do have another question for you, actually. So, when you came back for She-Hulk, you obviously had a different colored costume. Was there an in-story reason for that? What was your reaction when you first saw that the yellow and dark burgundy costume?
Yeah, so when they flew me out to Los Angeles for a fitting, and I got to the place where they do the costumes, and they kind of put me in a room, and they said, "Oh, well, they'll be right with you. They're just finishing something." So I went into this room by myself, and on the wall was the drawing of the red and gold, and I was just like, "Oh, it's so cool." That was the first time I saw it. I was like, "Oh shit, that's so cool." You know, because at that point I'm a fan, and you know, like getting to play with the red and yellow, you know, the red and gold was really cool. What was the other part?
Actually, was there an in-story reason for the costume change at all?
I don't. Well, one of the reasons he's in Los Angeles is because he has a guy there who makes his suits. So I remember we came up with something. The whole thing in She-Hulk, we don't want to tie too much of backstory to it, in case it complicates things going down the line. You know, a lot of it was time has passed, life is good.
He needed a new look.
He wanted a new look, and he's in LA, and what happens in LA stays in LA.
You have a question over here?
Yeah.
Hi. First, I just want to say I promised my dad I would say hi to you. So, hi.
Hi, Dad.
But you talked about doing stunts for Daredevil and stuff like that. Are there any stunts that you didn't get to do that you would have really wanted to? At least not getting severely injured or anything trying them.
So when we started doing this, anytime they said no, was like I was disappointed. And I've had enough accidents now that when they say no now, I'm like, okay. I understand. I've also learned that there's stuff that I've learned from in stunt sequences. What are the things that actually make the sequence better? So it can't be about me having fun. You know, there's too much money being spent for it to be about me like having fun on set. Like I want to do that. Like I remember early on I got thrown through a coffee table, and they had 3 of these coffee tables. They were kind of expensive to get made because they're called breakaways. They break as soon as you touch them. So they said if they got a really good take with Chris Brewster, my amazing stunt double from the Netflix series, that they would let me have a go. And it was like, so the first one was brilliant. We watched it back. It worked really well. So they had 2 more of these tables. So they let me do one, and I landed badly on my wrist, and it was fine. And I didn't tell anyone. And I just was like, it was broken, and I was like, I'm gonna be okay. But it was a really good example of like, if I had have injured myself, that would have been so uncool because they had the shot, and they, you know, like if I get injured, it's a real problem for production, obviously.
Sure, it's involved all sorts of things.
At the same time, part of the fabric of our show, one of the things that we sell this show on is that the stunts are real, and I do a lot of them, and I really enjoy that element of it. And I think it really makes a difference when you get a close-up of an action sequence and you know that you see that it's my face. It's not a wide shot because it needs to be someone other than me. So it's about finding that balance, you know, and sometimes sometimes there's things that I can do because we have the time and it's safe and I'm allowed to do it, and I've proven that I can do it, and then other times I don't. You know, but I remember like in this season finale of season 3, I wanted to jump off the balcony, and Chris broke his ankle. So yeah, I'm grateful that. Although as sorry as I was for Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, it's lovely to see you. I wanted to ask you a question about Stardust. I've been a fan of yours ever since seeing that, like a decade ago or whatever.
I think it's almost 2 decades.
Do you perhaps have a funny, memorable, or just interesting story from that filming you'd like to share?
Okay. I mean, so you have to imagine, like, I'm 22 or 23 years old. It's one of my first jobs. I got this part in this movie, and it's this fantasy film, and I've just been cast. So I'm really excited, and I get asked to come down to Pinewood Studios to do a rehearsal. And so I get in this car, I go to Pinewood. I think I did like a costume fitting or something, and then they said, "Oh, we just want to do a rehearsal." And so some PA took me somewhere, and I remember I was sat outside. It was a long time ago, and I was young. I was smoking a cigarette, which I don't do anymore. But so I was smoking a cigarette on these steps outside, waiting for this rehearsal. And I was like, do you know what we're doing? Does anyone know what I'm doing? And they're like, oh yeah, you're going to rehearse. I think they said you were going to rehearse with Bob. And I was like, and then around the corner comes Robert De Niro. And I was like, Bob. And then it was like my first day, and myself and Bob had a fencing rehearsal. So it's pretty bonkers.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Wait, Charlie, I have another question for you. Have you seen Deadpool Wolverine?
I've not seen it yet. I know. I'm really excited to see it. I can't wait. A lot of people have told me there's a very funny Daredevil gag, not my Daredevil gag. So that makes sense.
Hi, Charlie. My name is DC. So I love Daredevil, my favorite character. Saw him in Spider-Man Team Up, kind of the first time I came across that character. Cool. Always liked him. Now, can I ask you one question at the end? I'm going to run down a couple of things since you're taking forever, Disney or whatever, to get the Born Again out. In Born Again, I want to see the Electras, speaking of that movie, go at it. Now that you have 2 Electras in the Marvel Cinematic Universe or whatever, I would love to see that. Second of all, I'd love to see an episode with like Nightmare or something where Daredevil just stays in that damn hallway and just fights the whole episode. I think that's, like Constantine, House of Mysteries. That'd be interesting. Here's the question for you.
I think you and this guy should be friends.
Here's the question, this one big, right? Kingpin, is he a mutant? Where do you get that strength from?
What's the question?
The question was Kingpin a mutant, and where does he get his strength?
Oh, you have to ask Vincent D'Onofrio. Look, I can't speak for him.
That's
I
all
like
good.
your ideas though. I can't promise you they're going to happen, but there were some cool ideas in there. I hope you're happy with what you get.
TBD. All right,
Thank you for your question.
This one might be our last question. I think we're running out of time, but what do you got for us?
Hi.
Finish strong.
Now that you're in the MCU, what actor or actress are you most looking forward to working with?
Like in this world or just in general?
Yeah, in the MCU.
This is that willing it into
Yeah,
existence.
I know. You just gotta be so careful, haven't you? It's such a. It's like, look. I can't. I'm not gonna say it. There's so many. There's one particular group of people that I would like to be invited to join. So really answer that with a deal.
I'm guessing you're talking about the Defenders.
Okay, right.
All right, let's just do one more. We're gonna do one more. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Logan. Nice to see you again. This is just one quick question. Is there going to be a one-shot fight scene in Daredevil Born Again?
That is a great question.
Yes.
We're gonna end on a high note. I think that was it. I can't wait for that. Thank you so much, Charlie.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it again.
Thank you for watching this episode of Legends and Theories. Please subscribe, like the video, share the video, leave a comment, check out the video on screen, and may the Force be with you.